Today, the head of the press center of the group under the designation West, Colonel of the Russian Army, Sergei Zybinsky, said that the successful offensive of Russian troops in Kupyansk direction continues. According to him, the Russian army managed to capture 5 strongholds of the armed forces of Ukraine. Sergei Zybinsky also noted the heavy losses of the enemy. According to him, only in the battles for these strongholds, the armed forces of Ukraine lost about 200 people, which is comparable to the loss of an entire company. By the way, the big losses in the manpower of the armed forces of Ukraine have been also widely noted in the West, especially after the Ukrainian telecommunications company Kyivstar accidentally published the real losses of the Ukrainian army. Let me remind you that a few days ago, during a charity event, a promo video was shown, where the telecommunications company Kyivstar directly stated that 400,000 Ukrainian soldiers would never answer the phone. This promo video was later deleted. However, copies of this video have already spread all over the internet. These figures are horrifying, and make many military experts think. The human resources of the armed forces of Ukraine are rapidly declining, which forces the Kyiv authorities to resort to the next waves of forced mobilization of Ukrainian citizens. Even Poland has begun to deport Ukrainian men, who at one time managed to leave the country, in order to avoid falling into the ranks of the armed forces of Ukraine. At the same time, experts note that these actions will not solve the problems of the Ukrainian army, but on the contrary, everything will only get worse, since these mobilized people have no motivation, and do not want to fight. Moreover, 90% of newly mobilized citizens are aged 50-60 years, and have physical defects and health problems. The fact that the armed forces of Ukraine began to have tangible problems with manpower became clear after General Zaluzhny started to introduce elite strategic reserves of the Ukrainian army into battle in the Zaporizhia direction. It is reported that only in the battles for the small village of Robotino, the armed forces of Ukraine lost tens of thousands of soldiers and officers. At the same time, military experts from the Center for Eastern Studies state that the armed forces of Ukraine have not yet been able to occupy the central and southern parts of Robotino. Moreover, according to them, the Ukrainian armed forces have stopped attacking Russian positions in Robotino, and are simply trying to bypass this village in the direction of Novoprokopavka. At the same time, General Zaluzhny himself admitted that the armed forces of Ukraine will not be able to reach the city of Tokmak this year. Meanwhile, military experts, analyzing the course of hostilities, came to the conclusion that the Russians are using excellent tactics of warfare, which allows the Russian army to save the lives of a large number of its soldiers, and at the same time move forward on certain sections of the front. The head of the department at the U.S. Naval War College, Professor James Holmes, bluntly stated that the Russian army could capture all the cities of Ukraine within 2-3 months. However, the Russian command does not do this, trying to save the lives of Russian soldiers. According to him, the Russian army is exhausting the armed forces of Ukraine on all fronts, slowly moving forward where possible. James Holmes believes that the Pentagon and the armed forces of Ukraine made a very serious mistake by deciding to go on the offensive in the Kherson and Kharkiv directions last year. According to James Holmes, after that, the Russian army realized that it was not fighting with the armed forces of Ukraine, but with NATO forces led by the United States. This forced the Russian command to change the tactics of combat, go on the defensive, and start exhausting the enemy. At the same time, the Russians significantly increased the productivity of their military-industrial complex, and created the so-called Surovikin line. At the moment, the Russians have completely exhausted the armed forces of Ukraine and are waiting for the right moment to launch a strategic offensive, which will inevitably force Kiev to capitulate, James Holmes said. At the same time, the American expert blamed the Pentagon and, in particular, General Mark Milley, for the failure of the armed forces of Ukraine. According to him, General Milley showed his incompetence because he failed to predict the further course of events on the battlefield. The armed forces of Ukraine should not have retaken Kherson and Kharkiv last year. The Ukrainian army should have destroyed combat-ready units of the Russian army in battles, giving the Russian settlements and villages, and then, at the right moment, go on the offensive. Such a move might allow the armed forces of Ukraine to win a significant victory over the Russian army. However, due to incompetent generals in the Pentagon, the armed forces of Ukraine made terrible mistakes that will lead the Ukrainian army to a crushing defeat, James Holmes said.